Welcome to the Van Buren Chamber of Commerce's Forum for the City of Van Buren's mayoral candidates. I'm Stephen Cady, Chairman of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee. First, on behalf of the Chamber and the Governmental Affairs Committee, we have arranged this forum. We want to express our appreciation to you, Alderman Blake, and to you, Mayor Freeman, for agreeing to participate in this forum and to share with us this evening your thoughts and ideas for the city and your candidacy. And most of all, we appreciate your past service to the community as elected officials and your willingness to and commitment to continue to serve. The position of mayor, as I'm sure everyone knows, will be decided in the general election on November 4th. And the next mayoral term, which is 4 years, begins the end of this year, January 1st. Second, we want to thank all of you individuals that have shown up tonight. We're glad you're here. The Chamber is glad to sponsor this event because it's an important part of what the Chamber does for the business community and the community at large. So we're pleased with the turnout and that you are here tonight. The focus of this evening's candidates forum will be city government and community issues, and as a Chamber-sponsored event, particularly those issues relating to business and economic development. I hate to disappoint you, but we're not going to talk about abortion, gun rights, or those things that are legislated at a state or federal level. We are very pleased tonight to have our forum moderator, Dr. Henry Rennie. Dr. Henry Rennie is Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. He has graciously agreed to be our moderator, and we are pleased and honored that he is filling that important role for us. It's worth noting that the Drennan Scott House in Van Buren falls under the preview of Dr. Rennie's college, and the Drennan House is the only University of Arkansas campus facility located outside of Fort Smith. Dr. Rennie is not only official at the university, but he is also a friend to Van Buren, for which we are very grateful. Dr. Rennie, we appreciate your taking on the role of moderator for this evening, and please give a big round of applause for Dr. Rennie.
Thank you, Stephen. And I welcome everybody as well. I'm honored that the Chamber asked me to be here this evening, and it is my honor and pleasure to conduct this and moderate this very important forum. At UAFS, we try to impress on our students that an engaged and informed citizenry is not only important, but it is critical to having and maintaining democracy in a government that's truly by and for the people. Everyone's presence here this evening is a wonderful lesson, an example for our students and for all of us. So I too thank you for being here. As you would expect, there's a format and rules for this forum. These were provided to the candidates in advance, so we're all aware of what these are, and I'm going to go over them quickly for you. Audience, please do not applaud or speak out while the forum is underway. Also, we ask that you do not display, distribute, or make available during or right after this event any campaign literature, promotion materials, or signs. For those of you with recording devices, it is permissible to audio or video record this event, but your equipment must remain in one location. There is to be no walking around while taping or taking pictures. And if you do take pictures, do not use a flash. The lights up here are bright enough as it is, and we don't want to blind our candidates, and then they'll fall in the pit, and that's not very good. Also, please silence your cell phones or put them on stun or something like that. The format consists of me as moderator asking the candidates a series of predetermined questions, which were prepared by the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee. The questions relate to a variety of city, government, and community and economic development issues and topics. The questions were not provided to the candidates in advance. Their first time to hear the questions will be this evening. The questions are not intended to be got-you questions, but are intended to give the candidates opportunities to share their thoughts, opinions, and positions on a variety of local issues and topics. The intention this evening is for each candidate Each candidate's light to shine as brightly as it possibly can, and as well to provide you an opportunity to gauge for yourselves the mayoral candidates. I will ask each candidate the same question. Who answers a question first will alternate from question to question. Who answers the first question was determined earlier by a coin toss, and that will go to Mayor Freeman, will be the first responder. Candidates will be allowed up to 2 minutes for their response to each question, with the exception being the last question, for which the time allowed will be 3 minutes. A timekeeper will signal the candidates when he's within 20 seconds of his end remark, and he will be signaled to stop at the end of the time allowed. Candidates, when you are not speaking, you are asked to be seated. When you are speaking, that is, answering a question, you may sit or stand, your preference. As moderator, I may choose to ask follow-up questions if I believe it's necessary to provide clarification, or if I think the question was not understood or not as fully answered as it should have been. I expect to be asking few, if any, follow-up questions, but I will if I think it is necessary. Candidates, rebuttals of answers during the Q&A format are discouraged. This is not a debate. Each of you will be asked and will answer each question, and we'll move on to the next question. If you feel a rebuttal to comments made by the other person is necessary, time will be allowed for that at the end of the Q&A format. After the final question is answered, you, the audience, will be invited to ask questions of the candidates. It's anticipated that 10 or 15 minutes will be allowed for this, but that will depend on your interest and how many questions are fielded. You are asked to keep your questions related to matters pertaining to issues of local or city government nature. As Stephen mentioned earlier, the other kinds of questions about those issues should be kept to other forums. This entire evening's event is anticipated to last no longer than 90 minutes, so we expect to conclude around 7:30. So with that, I think it's time to get started, and I will introduce the two candidates. First, Alderman Max Baker down on this end, and Mayor Bob Freeman, who gets our very first question. Please tell us about yourself. Things like where you were raised, where you went to school, educational achievements, jobs you've held, your family's hobbies, community activities you've been involved with, things that you'd like to share with us that will help us to know you better as a person.
Well, first, let me just open up also thanking each and every one of you for being here tonight, and thanks for the Chamber for sponsoring this event. Dr. Rennie for volunteering of your time to moderate. But it's very important that all of you have taken the time to be here, and just like my friend Zoe down front, 8 years old, who wanted to take time from her day to come tonight to listen to the two candidates. I know there's some members of a civics class that are here. I was born and raised in Van Buren, graduated in 1973. And then I went off to school because I got a scholarship from ROTC in the ROTC. So I went to school over at the University of Oklahoma, graduated from there, and I thought that I'd put my 4 years back, get my 4 years back to the Army, and then I'd be moving on somewhere else in life. But it didn't quite work out that way. I ended up spending 20 years in the Army, but I attained the rank of lieutenant colonel. I was very blessed, and then decided to move back home. When I was in the service, I went to school at night to get my master's degree, and came home with my wife and my two children. My wife was a teacher. Again, came back without jobs, but we knew this is where we wanted to come, and knew that God would take care of us, whatever the plan was, and that's what happened. Once I moved back, within my first 6 months, I was on the Municipal Auditorium Commission, as a matter of fact, was the first place I served. From the Municipal Auditorium Commission, I moved on to the Planning Commission. I was chairman of the Planning Commission. I've served as United Way volunteer, as CASA volunteer, volunteer in the church, and then 8 years ago made the decision to seek the office of being the mayor. As I said, my wife's a teacher. I've got two children. I've got a son who's a captain in the U.S. Army. And a daughter who's an attorney and lives in Paris, Texas. I'm very proud of them. And again, thank you so much for your attention and being here tonight.
Well, I'd like to thank you also. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time to do anything like this, so just bear with me just a little bit. But I'm Max Blake, not Max Baker.
I am sorry about that.
That's all right. Well, I'm a River Valley native. I was born and raised in Fort Smith and graduated from Southside. And while I was going to West Ark, I joined Grady Stone Aviation, started my career in the aviation industry. And then I met my wife, Angie. She's in the audience, my daughter, Kirby. And one thing led to another, and I stayed in the aviation industry for 30 years. About 4 years ago, I decided to try and become more involved in the community, and was appointed to the Housing Authority, and I went through some of the leadership classes here in town, and just tried to become more plugged in. And fortunately, 2 years ago, was elected to the city council, and just kept trying to learn, kept going to classes in the with the municipal league, and just love Van Buren. That's where we've been. I married Angie, 30 years ago, and this is where we've been since. We just love Van Buren.
Thank you all. For the next question, Alderman Blake will answer this question for us. Van Buren has, as you know, a mayor-council form of government. Under this form of city government, as you understand it, what is the mayor's job?
Well, I believe the mayor's job is the CEO of the city. I mean, he should lead the city, lead the council from every aspect. He should have the decision-making when it comes to suggesting what needs to go on in the city, any visions that he has for the city to improve the city, to make sure the city's protected from fire and police protection. He needs that to be paramount. That the protection would be first and foremost. But then, secondly, the mayor should have a vision to lead Van Buren into the future with some economic development ideals, and just the growth of Van Buren is critical to the mayor. With that said, we just need, the mayor would have to be out in front of every organization that we can be, and just promote and cheer on and form a team that will take Van Buren into the future. But the mayor is the CEO of the city.
Mayor Freeman?
Alderman Blake's correct. In the mayor-council form of government, the mayor does serve as basically as the CEO. A lot of times people get confused of what happens for example, in Fort Smith or in Van Buren. In Van Buren, we don't have a city administrator. In Van Buren, the mayor has the role of the public relations side as the cheerleader, as the leader of the community, and he's also the chief administrator of the things. The department heads report to the mayor's office. The mayor oversees budget activities. That's a lot of the day-to-day work of the mayor is that, but it's also about building relationships. It's about building partnerships. It's about reaching out to other organizations to make sure that they have whatever resources they need that you can do within your power to make sure that they're successful, because that's what makes a community successful, are the partnerships. And a lot of what the mayor does, again, has to do with those relationships and building those relationships and maintaining them. We're very fortunate, for example, in our community to have such a great organization as Keep Van Buren Beautiful. John Pope is a wonderful director of Keep Van Buren Beautiful. And I want to do everything I can as the mayor to cheer John on and to make sure that he has the resources that are available to him. Randy Smith's another one. He's a great volunteer up at the cemetery. It's near and dear to his heart, and he's got a passion for that facility. The mayor needs to do everything that he can, again, to give him the resources that he can do his job. That's what we do in the fire and the police department. In my background, and being in the military as an officer, my job was to make sure that the men who worked for me we had the proper manning, the proper training, and the proper equipping. That's the same thing in the fire and police departments. I got to make sure that they are manned, trained, and equipped so they can provide the public service and safety that they need to for this community.
Thank you, gentlemen. Question number 3, which will begin with Mayor Freeman. Local government is responsible for basic boots-on-the-ground services like fire and police protection, streets and drainage, water and sewer, and solid waste services. In your opinion, how is the City of Van Buren doing in its provision of these basic services, and where might there be need for improvement?
Let's try to go down the list, and we'll start with police department. We have got a number one police department, and the things that have happened over the last 8 years. You can look at statistics. We just went through an economic assessment, and they show the police calls and what have happened to police calls in the city of Van Buren over the last several years. Those calls have fallen like this. Now you may wonder, well, what does that mean when your calls fall? Those are calls that are coming in from the community into dispatch requesting an officer's assistance for whatever reason. If those calls aren't coming in, that means that something's happening. It's better to have the calls go this way than it is to have the calls go this way. And there are a number of factors, I think, that have gone into that. I can talk about them for a while. It has to do with laptops in the cars. It has to do with the manning, what we've done as far as the shift changes to 12-hour shifts. But I feel good. I mean, I live in the older part of town. I don't have any hesitancy about walking around in my neighborhood. And if you know where I live, you look and go, well, maybe you need to think twice. I don't. I feel I'm in a safe place. Fire department, we have an ISO rating of 2. We have built a new fire station. We've bought 3 new pumper trucks to keep the equipping up, the training up. Fire department, second to none. I hope none of you ever have to deal with a fireman, because it's going to be one of 2 occasions. One, there's a fire, or second, you need somebody as a first responder. Neither of those are good. But again, our fire department is, again, second to none. Streets and drainage, we've come a long way. Do we have a long way to go? Yes, we do. You can never, ever stop. Now, we've made some changes over the past 8 years, and we've moved forward. One of those has to do with the recently acquired, about 6 months ago, an asphalt laydown machine to try to cut costs and see if we can do some of that work ourselves. We're still in the early stages of it. We'll see what happens. As far as the water and sewer are concerned, that really is under that commission, so I can't say a lot about it.
Alderman Blake.
Okay. Well, I just have to, my time on the council has been pretty much just echo what Bob said, that we've got the best police department, we've got the best fire department, we've equipped them correctly, and we've built new fire station, we're building a new police station. There's really not any more I can say, because I know exactly what he knows sitting in the same meetings, that we're blessed to have that type of force here. It's obvious on the drainage and the streets, there's lots of improvement that needs to happen. The utilities, there's going to be, Fort Smith's going through some issues right now, and it's probably headed over here next. So, but the drainage issues is probably one of the main issues I see with Van Buren right now, other than the streets. And, like Bob said, we're going to address that stuff. But the drainage issues, you're talking about people's property, and, it's right-of-ways that we own. And I just see a need for the city to step up probably and do a little more cleaning of the drainages. We have a crew that goes around and picks up the limbs and the yard debris. I just see maybe we could have a crew with a small excavator and a dump truck to clean more of the drainages for the folks that's suffering when we have a rain like we had this past week. I went and looked at a couple of them. I got phone calls from a couple of folks and went and looked at the flow down the sides of the streets running in their buildings, and there's some things that need to be done. I don't have all the answers other than trying to put a crew out there and clean some of these drainages out, and I don't, but they're city right-of-ways, and they're our responsibility, and we need to try and clean them up. But thank you.
Okay, question number 4, which begins, Alderman Blake will answer it first. Additional areas of responsibility for city government are planning, zoning, issuance of building permits, and code enforcement, things that are considered as both planning and regulatory. What are your thoughts on how the city is doing in its development of policies for and in its administration of these city functions? Planning, zoning, issuance of building permits, code enforcement.
Well, address the planning first. I think planning's fine, other than I do believe on the planning side, I would like to see where sidewalks play more of an issue in the planning. I mean, we have developments, we have new developments that we don't enforce a sidewalk ordinance or a sidewalk. There's a mandate that sidewalks will go in on the main thoroughfare. I believe planning needs to be asked or be told we're going to do that from now on. I mean, we overlaid and rebuilt Rena Road with the state's help, and we pulled the sidewalks off of it. Planning, that's not good planning, and we need to be better at that. As far as code enforcement goes, we can go around and enforce the code. I believe we do a good job of it. That's a difficult issue when you have to go tell somebody to clean their yard up or whatever, get the trash out of their yard. But the planning to me needs to be an issue, with how we plan our streets and our subdivisions with the sidewalks. And as far as code enforcement also, I believe the code enforcement needs to go out to the industrial side also. I mean, we can go tell a resident to mow his yard, and I've asked this question before, but we don't seem to go tell the industrial owner to mow his yard. And I just feel like that, the industrial area needs to be under that same guideline. Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, one of my first positions after I left the Municipal Auditorium Commission was to be the chairman of the Planning Commission. At that time, it was before the recession, and we had plats and subdivisions, and it was constant with the things that were happening. And we went through and made revisions to our subdivision regulations. We made revisions to our zoning regulations as times changed. One of the things that we did, Fort Smith got caught short with sexually oriented businesses. And we got to the front of it, and we put a regulation in that we could regulate sexually oriented businesses that would come to Van Buren. And to this point, you can drive around and you don't see one because we made it tough. Didn't say you couldn't be here. We just made it tough of where they could be. We did that. We did sign ordinances. We did some other things. In fact, when we were going through the sign ordinance, somebody called me a Bolshevik and a sign Nazi. I'm going to tell you, for somebody who spent 20 years in service to his country to be called a Nazi and a Bolshevik didn't go over too well. But that's what leadership's about. Leadership's about making the tough decisions. Alderman Blake mentioned about sidewalks. Sidewalks, another thing that would have to be addressed in our subdivision regulations. And we've asked and had public hearings about that to see if they want to be mandated, but developers and the builders have come in and said, no, we don't want to do that. Which side is it going to be on? I fully support it if we would move in that direction. But that's what we have to do is to look forward, not just react to today, but look to the building and what's going to happen in the future, like with the sexually oriented businesses. 4 years ago, I hired a professional planner to come in to help the city, Joe Hurst. He's been a great addition to the city for the things that Joe can pick up and do. Code enforcement, it's a constant battle. I wish that people would get it, but it's just like going up and picking up trash in the neighborhoods. Some people just don't get it.
Thank you, Mayor. Our 5th question will be your opportunity to answer first, Mayor Freeman. Money for operations, maintenance, and capital improvements is an important and essential part of the operation of any sizable organization, city government included. Please tell us what your thoughts are on the financial condition of the City of Van Buren in terms of funding for its routine operations and in terms of funding for capital improvements underway or proposed. At this time, are there issues of a financial nature that should be of concern or that warrant careful attention?
If you had asked me that same question 4 years ago, I'd say every day is a concern. Unfortunately, when I took an office in 2007, that was the start of the recession. We had building permits that were like this. So we were getting fees on permits that fell off the table. Our sales tax from 2006 to 2012 was either flat or down. And there's several reasons for that. One has to do with the recession. Second, I think, has to do with internet sales. Third has to do with the lottery sales. You know, when you have $4 million of lottery sales in Crawford County, that's not money that somebody found. That's money that's coming out of the economy. So sales tax revenues were down. Fines went down. So we were managing basically payroll to payroll. But we did it. When other cities were laying off, freezing, hiring, we didn't. We made sure that, again, back to the manning, equipping, that all the services were in place, or in fact, they improved. And now that the citizens, when the citizens passed the half-cent sales tax, that has really helped and taken a lot of that relief. On the capital improvement side, our capital improvement money comes from the county sales tax. We're fine. Could I say we could use more? Sure. It's just like your personal checkbook. You'd always like to have more. But again, as the mayor, I've got to manage the city budget just like your personal checkbook. I look down and say, here's the stuff that we've got to do. Here are the things that are the nice to haves, and we just can't do that right now. Or these are the things I'd like to do. We just can't get there, and we need to put it off somewhere in the future. My only concern about the capital improvement, since it comes from the county sales tax, that next year the county sales tax comes up for renewal. And we need to make sure that we get out as the community and the county to get that county sales tax renewed for what the impact is on us and the county.
Well, my knowledge of the money is pretty much what I, as an alderman, that I see and I request, and I try to educate myself. And to me, it looks like there's plenty of money to do the operations and take care of the day-to-day operations that we are accustomed to. It's probably not enough money to, kind of like what Bob said, to do more on the day-to-day operations when it comes to whether it's any kind of service that we don't provide now. But from what I can tell with the P&L and the expense accounts that I have privilege to see, we're not behind, and we're not doing anything we shouldn't be doing with the day-to-day operations. As far as the capital funds go, it sure would be nice to have more capital funds to do more projects, and whether it's, I don't think we can ever put any more taxes on our citizens, so we're going to have to figure some things out there, whether it's through some grant money, whether it's through some private investment, and because there's other things that the citizens want and need, and we're going to have to figure out something. I don't have all the answers to that just yet, but I will surround myself with some folks that can help with that matter. But we have to be competitive, so we're going to need some funds in order to polish ourselves up and do some things to make us more competitive in the job market industry where we're competing against other towns around us. But as far as the money for the day-to-day operations, I think that we're fine. The citizens passed the tax, and a half-cent stayed on for the general fund and shored up that leak that, as Bob mentioned, it was day-to-day, and we really appreciate y'all doing that. But for that investment, we need to provide some more quality of place and some more quality of service that we can do. We need to look under some rocks and shake some trees and see what falls out. But I will surround myself with some folks that can help with that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And this question is yours to begin with, Alderman Blake. Are there any actual or contingent financial obligations or looming needs that you are aware of that might require the city in the foreseeable future to consider a tax increase?
Far as that I know, far as something looming, the only thing I know that is looming from a standpoint that, and I brought this up in a council meeting months ago about how we would pay for these projects. The projects with some simple math, because I didn't have the information that I could figure was going to be probably $1.5 million over the budget. And with our current budget right now, we were only going to be maybe $350 to the good. And I posed that question in the council meeting, and it was told to me that, that my numbers were probably correct. I didn't know for sure, because the council, unless you go request this, we're not provided the bond ledger. We're not, so you have to go and I was trying to quickly dig up some numbers, and I wasn't trying to do anything. I'm just concerned, and it was addressed to me that we might have to borrow some money to pay that bill. To me, that's probably not acceptable, but it might be a reality, and I don't believe we could go and ask for a tax to do that, but it is an issue that I feel that is probably looming out there, and it's going to be here before you know it. And I don't have a good answer for it. But I have no desire to ever ask for a tax to fix that, so we're going to have to do something to pay for those projects, and I just don't have that information provided to me to know any more than what I just said. Thank you.
Mayor Freeman.
The short answer is no. There will be no tax increase. We are still the lowest tax community in our area, and I use that in terms of city taxes. We're still the lowest taxed city in our area, including Northwest Arkansas, when you consider city millage. For example, if you just looked and saw what Fort Smith was doing at their city directors, board of directors meeting, they were renewing their 5 mil property tax for the city, 5 mils for the city. The city of Van Buren, it's only 2. So that difference is well over $500,000 of what it would mean to us in the city, or $750,000 actually. So we're still the lowest taxed, and no, there will be no new tax. Alderman refers to not having access to information. Anybody can get any information they ask for if they want it. There's no secret to it. And you can ask about the projects, and is there going to be a need for additional funds for a project that's not in the bond fund? The answer is yes. And I'll give you an example. Example has to do with the police department. We made a decision, the city council made a decision and voted 6-0 for that decision. The mayor doesn't vote. But the city council made the decision that the right place to build the police station was at the O. Sherman's building on top of Logtown Hill. Well, when we decided, or that decision was made to do that, and I made that recommendation along with a committee that the alderman served on, that it would cost us $450,000 for that property. So that $450,000 had to come out of the bond fund. And the question was, is there another place for that $450,000 to come from? The answer was, yes, there is. It can come out of the reserves, out of the general fund, or it can come out of capital improvements next year when it's needed. We could have built it on Access Road, and there had been no additional cost. But you got to make the decisions knowing what the finances are and what the future is going to be. Cannot shortchange ourselves tomorrow just for today.
Thank you. And this question will be yours to answer first. Van Buren voters recently approved a sales tax initiative to provide the city with extra funding for, among other things, parks and recreation facilities, which indicates that citizens consider parks and recreations important. What are your ideas regarding providing Van Buren citizens with expanded and improved parks and recreation opportunities?
Again, that's a pretty easy answer because this spring I went to the city council, and I'm going to back up. I'm going to back up to about 2005 when some sales tax initiatives and some ballot issues came to the citizens of Van Buren, and they voted each of them down with the exception of the new library. When that new library came into place, that half-cent sales tax went away. We were in the middle of the recession. I didn't think it was the right time to bring it back. Was told nobody's ever had a sales tax that comes and goes, and I said we're going to do it. And I want the citizens to see what they built. I want to see them to see their investment. And what shocked me was that people would come into the library, citizens of Van Buren, and say, "I never thought we would have something like this in Van Buren, Arkansas." Really? Is that what we think? We'll never have something like this in Van Buren, Arkansas? See, that was the first facility in our community that the citizens had paid for themselves. Everything else had been federally funded, but they did the library. So the next step is when several years later, we did the police station, fire station, and then we did a piece for parks to see if the citizens were willing to step up. Every one of those projects, to include the senior center safe room, was over 70% pass. Now, if I could go back and knowing, if I knew in hindsight that was going to be the overwhelming majority, I would have said, let's put some more money into the parks side of it. But I thought, let's see, and let's basically wet the whistle and then say, what's next? What's next? So in the spring, we came back to the council and said, why don't we do a master parks plan and lay out what we want to see in our community for the future? Not 1 year, not 2 years, 5, 10, and 20 years. And that's what we're in the middle of doing right now. Bottom up, what do you want to see?
Well, I know the parks and recreation side of things is a big topic here in Van Buren, and I appreciate what Bob's saying about, you know, the leadership from the engineering group and stuff. But with that said, you know, we had, the citizens did approve, you know, quite a bit of money for parks and recreation. And I don't believe that we thought that it would all be for maintaining things or adding, we thought we'd see some more, you know, amenities in the park and stuff. You know, I've traveled several places over my time with my kids, and one place sticks out, you know, Republic, Missouri, for example, and I'm just using this as a community about half our size, and you go up there and look at this park system they have, and I wonder how they pay for it, you know, and I know that it all comes back to paying for things. But first off, you got to want to do something before you do it. You know, you got a building, you got a community with a building with a bunch of basketball courts in it, got a swimming pool, they even got a rodeo arena sitting beside it. And it's a town of 12,000 people. And, you know, I know things have to be paid for, but I know we would like those things. I would like those things. And I want to figure out how to do those things, because those things make a community, it'll be a place together, it'll be a place how we come together and we enjoy one another. You know, I've walked the streets of Van Buren campaigning twice now in 4 years, and I've heard a lot of folks, you know, it's not just always about the youth either. I've had people in their 70s say, Max, we don't have anything to do, we want somewhere to go. You know, and it's just thinking outside the box maybe. And I know the facts are the facts when it comes to money, but the building that I saw up there, you know, is well thought out of it. They built a fitness center in this building, and they lease it out to their local hospital. I thought it was just ingenious, you know, take some of the burden off yourself. And, you know, it goes back to money. But I really want to try and figure out how we provide those types of recreation and the amenities in our park for our citizens. I do know it's going to take some money, but it's going to, go back to putting the team together and shaking the trees and opening up underneath the rocks. We'll find an answer to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And this next question is yours to respond to first. Van Buren's downtown is an iconic part of the community. The town's 6-block-long main street, with its 100-year-old and older buildings, is unique, historically significant, and an attraction to visitors. What do you think should be done to further downtown's preservation and economic vitality?
Downtown is probably the easiest historic site or district. To me, is probably the easiest tool we have to fix. And because, or maybe not fix is the right word, but to use as a tool to attract folks to our city to help pay our bills. We have a partner with the Drennan Scott House, and I've spoken to them. I spoke to them before I decided to run to make sure I wasn't saying something that was incorrect. They want to be a bigger part of the community. They and they want to be open more, and somehow we have to put some energy into this, and come up with a plan to attract folks to our city. And I just think the historic and the downtowns can be the catalyst to that. You got millions of people traveling every year between Crystal Bridges on this interstate to the historic site in Fort Smith. And when the Marshals Museum is built, you're going to have them within just a few miles. And, I don't have the answer yet, but I'm going to come up with that answer, and we're going to lure them over here. The Drennan Scott's fixing to purchase the house below them, and they're going to have a bigger campus. They got 40 acres behind them. They want, we talked about a botanical garden, an amphitheater. They're willing to do whatever it takes, and they have access to grant money a whole lot easier than we do. And I've talked to them about this, and I'm trying not to say anything I don't know, because I think I do know, but at least what I've been told. And I just want them to be a partner with us. And downtown will be the beneficiary of it. It's no different than Central Mall. You anchor one end of this town with an anchor, and you anchor the other end with an anchor, and everybody in the middle is happy. I mean, you're gonna have people just coming and going, and your customers right out here on this highway or right over here off Clayton Expressway. Thank you.
Mayor.
I stood up one day at Drennan Scott after it was first renovated, standing there with Tom Wing, and we're looking down the streets, and I said, what a golden triangle we've got. Because you can stand at the Drennan Scott house and you can look down to the right to the old courthouse. And you can stand at Drennan Scott and you can look down straight ahead and you see the Mount Olive Church and the historic Mount Olive Church, and then the depot. And that triangle that falls in between that comes into our downtown. My great-grandfather and my grandfather had a dry goods store in downtown. I live a block away from downtown, so this is very important to me. This is what signifies and makes the identity of Van Buren, Arkansas, and who we are. My grandparents, actually lost that store in the Depression. So times have been rough before, and times have been rough in the last several years. But we do have a future here with the Drennan Scott. I agree 100%, and how we can maximize that. At the other end, that's when we purchased the property across from the depot for a new park, for new green space, for new gathering. What the city can do to help facilitate the downtown and the growth and the merchants and their success is about bringing people downtown. We can't force them into the shops. We can't tell shop owners what to sell. We can't set the hours. But there are things that we can do to provide for space for them to come down here and feed off from there. I've been in Sulphur Springs, Texas. Sulphur Springs, Texas is an old Texas town square, had a parking lot right by the town courthouse, or the county courthouse. Took the parking lot, turned it into a park, and you're seeing business by business downtown revitalized because of the movie nights, the music, the Saturday nights, the farmers market. We can do the same thing, and that's where we're continuing to move. Lee Creek Park, another example. We're looking at grants for Lee Creek Park and for the boat ramps, and to continue to expand down there.
Thank you. And this next question is yours to answer first. This next question has to do with another part of the city, the Van Buren Industrial Park. Established over 40 years ago, the industrial park is home to a number of businesses that are major employers and significant contributors to the local tax base. What are your thoughts on what might be done to make the Van Buren Industrial Park a better place for existing and future businesses? And as a second part of this question, do you think Van Buren should be thinking about establishing new industrial parks?
Tough question. I think in hindsight, and I wasn't here when that industrial park was established, and it was good at the time, and the land was available. It's a great location. It's great open space, but the industrial park has a challenge, and that has to do with the fact that a lot of it is located in floodplain. And anytime you build in floodplain, you've got certain restrictions. Now, when the industrial park was established, it wasn't as big a deal as it is now. But we do have some issues in the industrial park. As far as establishing, I'll get back to it, but as far as establishing a new industrial park, maybe something we need to look at. But I think that'll be a part of the overall economic strategy that we're entering into and being engaged with the Chamber of Commerce. The city and the Chamber have both partnered. We have got a steering committee. We're reaching out to stakeholders to include the industrial park, the downtown, all aspects of business and retail to warehousing or whatever it may be in our community to talk about what is the future going to bring and what do we need to do. And we'll see what unfolds from that economic strategy and again, set some goals from where we need to go. One of the things with the industrial park that I look at now and say, well, thank goodness, and it has to do back with the floodplains, is thank goodness that we made the step to get our levee certified. We were the first system between the city and the county to get levee certified in the Little Rock District with the Corps of Engineers, and they still marvel at it that we're able to do it. But if we weren't able to do that and they weren't certified, the flood insurance rates for those businesses would have been catastrophic. But we made the decision to step up and provide the leadership to make sure it happened.
Alderman?
The industrial park, I understand it's all private, and it's hard to probably go down there and dictate a lot of policy or a lot of effort without just going down there and just finding out ways maybe to market or help market some empty buildings, or encourage some cleanup where it is more marketable, or just help clean it up so the large employers and the small employers that are trying to do good down there and provide the jobs and the economic base for that park, it has a better way into the park where their stakeholders don't see what they see going in. But I do believe that at some point Van Buren does need to kind of start looking towards acquiring a piece of property that we can call our own industrial park, where we can manage it, where we can use it as a driver or an economic driver, whether we choose to give away some property for X number of jobs to some. If you provide X number of jobs, you get X number of acres. I mean, I look back over at the Lee Creek exit. I just don't understand why it's not developed. And I understand the cost of running some utilities out there and everything, but if you just land one major hit, you hit a home run, and you see these giant truck stops everywhere. If you had a giant truck stop out there and look at the tax revenue you'd pull off of that, and you said, okay, this is what's going to fund our community center. We got to go do that type of stuff. And I don't claim to know how to fund it, but it goes back to what I said before. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to try and figure it out. We have to be competitive, and you see other communities, all of them down Interstate 40, all over the United States, trying to provide an economic impact for their community by luring companies or corporations to their area. Thank you.
Thank you. The city and the chamber recently agreed to co-sponsor the preparation of an economic development plan for Van Buren, which both of you as city officials endorse. In your opinion, why is it important for Van Buren to undertake an economic development planning process and to have an economic development plan? Alderman Blake.
Well, you need a plan for about anything you want to do to make it successful. The assessment that was provided, they give you all these North American codes and stuff that you can see what's leaving your city or what's staying at your city, and you can kind of educate yourself. And with the plan, you can see, how much money's being spent in what sector, and if it's leaving our city, then that's where you focus. That's what the plan's for. If you have leakage of car sales or something that Van Buren can provide, that might be where you put your energy. It's a very handy tool because I think it opened up a lot of eyes to folks that certain things are not as bad as what we thought, and certain things are worse than what we thought. So the plan, with that information that we have, now we ought to be able to put that plan together and focus on those areas of the leakage that we have. And that would be what I would focus on first, is how we stick our finger in that hole first. Thank you.
Mayor.
The assessment is important, not just for looking at leakage, but looking at where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses as a community. And I think we could all have made the guess of what it was going to show the strength of Van Buren to be before we even got the results. And the strength of Van Buren has to do with transportation. It has to do with transportation and warehousing. That's been our heritage, that's been our past, and I truly believe that's going to be our future. We sit on, as Marty Shells calls it, this wonderful liquid highway. We have the Arkansas River, that it's not used to its maximum capacity now, but there's plenty of room for growth. We sit on Interstate 40, we have A&M Railroad, we have Union Pacific Railroad, and we have the possibility of a future I-49. We have got a very bright future and bright tomorrow of what we're going to do and where we can go. The strategy is going to help point us in a direction of what we can do. Now, there are numbers that show leakage. And what leakage is, it says that you would expect so many dollars to be spent in your community on a certain product or a particular area, but you're not spending all of those dollars there. They're going elsewhere. For example, an easy one, and I'll go ahead and point it out, an easy one is alcohol sales. We don't have a retailer in Van Buren or in Crawford County for alcohol sales. So all that dollars are called leakage because they're being spent somewhere else. We'll also lose $20–30 million in other retail operations. And so it is, how do you capture that? Or you say, we can't capture that because that's not who we are. But this is who we are, and this is going to come our way. So the strategy is very important, again, because it sets out the plan, it sets out the vision, not for tomorrow, not for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and where we put our priorities and our resources.
Thank you, Mayor. When it comes to economic and business development, what do you think are the appropriate roles for city government and the mayor? To you first, Mayor.
Number one, the mayor is the cheerleader for his community. The mayor is the one who says, this is who we are, and this is who we're going to be, to set that vision out. The mayor is, again, the one who builds the relationships and works with the other organizations that are so important. Our Chamber of Commerce has come light years in the last 6 or 7 years. That relationship is critical. And Jackie and I and the entire staff work hand in hand, something that we really didn't have before. RITA, the Regional Intermodal Transportation Authority. 8 years ago, RITA didn't exist. We didn't talk to each other across the river. You know, it was they stay on their side and we stay on our side. And I sat down at the time with the city administrator who was there and with his deputy, and we said, you know, this has got to stop. You know, Friday nights are great for Friday nights, but we're a regional economy, and we've got to come together. And they're in agreement. And so we began working behind the scenes with some other folks and said, how can we bring us together, and what do we need to do? And Rita was the obvious answer because of the intermodal study that had been done previously. Rita broke down the walls. And now we keep talking, and everybody talks about a regional economy, a regional economy, a regional economy, and how we work together. You know, we're working together here now, and I see in the future that we'll be working together across the mountain. And this regional economy will truly grow, which is already we're seeing from here into Northwest Arkansas. The mayor says that this is a great place to live. The mayor doesn't say that we're average or that we're mediocre. We're not, folks. We're a great community, and it's a great place to live.
I believe the first thing we need to do is take care of what we already have. We have to be out in front. We have to be out visiting with the owners, the managers of the existing corporations that we have. We have to make sure we're making decisions and that we're not in the way of their success. For example, I mean, and it's nothing that anybody did, but it'd been, you know, if we can stay in contact and stay, you know, on a good, stay in touch with everybody, we wouldn't have Alan Canning sneak up on us a little bit. I mean, it'd been nice to know about that a little sooner, or Federal Express leaving town and building in another city. You know, I'd like to have thought that we could have got out in front of Federal Express and maybe encouraged them to stay here. And some of it we can't do, and some of it, you know, that they're just leaving town anyway. And I do agree with Bob. I mean, it's a regional thing, and there's no desire on anybody's part to mess with that regional alliance. But we do have to stay in touch with our community businesses we have right now. I mean, you have small businesses locating down here in downtown. You got Turf Pro, and you got Roger Key's business coming down. You got people buying buildings down here, and you know, we need to, even the small guys, we need to get down here and encourage them and prop them up, and you know, see how we can help them. I mean, just a few jobs means a lot, and we got to encourage more growth like that. And it's just get out of their way sometimes and let them be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And this next question, you'll be the first to answer. Nowadays, we hear a lot being said about quality of place and its importance to a community's development economically. What are your thoughts on this, and what might Van Buren do to improve its quality of place?
Quality of place, you know, I believe has everything to do with how we look. You know, like Bob said, it's a great place, but there is room for improvement. You know, I drove down here a while ago and came down Arkansas Street. You can't even see the curb and gutter, and it's not in front of a home. It's in front of the right-of-way the city owns. I mean, there's grass all over town. Some of it's in state highway right-of-ways. And you know, I choose to believe that there's a way to clean up these grass areas that are unsightly, and then you can take quality of place back to the sidewalk issue. Where we do have sidewalks, they're humped up and there's grass growing and there are limbs growing across them, and it's time to clean them up and try to build that quality of place. If we can't afford to build a community center and a swimming pool and stuff, at least we can polish ourselves up and beautify ourselves. And I'm not talking about trash or anything like that. I'm talking about the effort that we put out to take care of our own right-of-ways, our own sidewalks, our own curb and gutter. You know, it goes back to code enforcement. We can go out and tell somebody that you need to mow your grass, but we got a right-of-way over here that's 6 foot tall. So I believe there's a way to clean it up, shine it up, promote ourselves. And like I said, you know, quality of place is not always about a big ticket item. You know, I would like for it to be. I would like to build a community center with an aquatics park and rodeo arena, but until we figure out the funding on something like that, or if the citizens say they do want something like that and they're willing to pay for it, it's not up to me. It's up to the citizens and the taxpayers of this community as far as expenditures like that. Thank you.
Mayor?
If there's an overgrown right-of-way with 6 feet tall, did you call and let us know if you saw it? When people talk about quality of place, I think the first thing they think of is Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation equals quality of place. Parks and Recreation is one element of quality of place. Quality of place has to do with not just Parks and Recreation, it has to do with cultural activities, for example. It has to do with proximity to universities and colleges. We're very blessed that we have the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith right across the river, and we do have a presence here at Drennan Scott. Cultural activities with Drennan Scott, what we see over in Fort Smith, our own fine arts facility, Alma's Performing Arts Facility, all of those in this region are pieces of that. That's why we're engaged in this master parks plan of how we can improve that. Quality of place has to do with crime rate. I've talked to you about that and about safety. People want to live someplace that's safe. Quality of place has to do with something as simple as the weather. Can't control that, but we're a heck of a lot better here than some other areas. A lot of elements that go into that that we've been working on. Quality of place has to do with taking care of the seniors, a senior center. Quality of place, again, going back to safety with the safe rooms and what we see in the schools. Quality of place has to do with our own school district. The economic assessment speaks to that. What a great school district that we have. A lot of people say, we've got great schools. We've got something that we can point to and say, let me tell you about our schools and let me show you on paper what they really are. All of those things are quality of place. Again, when I went into the Army, I moved around and lived for 20 years all over the world. All over the world. Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Germany, Korea, Alabama. And whenever I was there, I looked for where I would like to raise my family. And you know what I did? I always compared it back to Van Buren, Arkansas. And one day, it hit me. If you're comparing every place you live to Van Buren, then by golly, you need to pack up and go home and live in Van Buren, Arkansas. That's where you need to go. And that's my vision for other people, that they see the same thing here that I saw and that what you see.
Alderman? Oh, you just did. Okay. Well, just as I am. That's the next question, then Mayor Freeman will answer first. What do you think will be the most significant challenges facing Van Buren city government over the next 10 years?
On the immediate horizon, and I say immediate horizon because it's going right now, but it's something that you don't see, most of you don't see. You maybe heard about it, you maybe haven't heard about it, but it's going to have a huge impact. It has to do with our water and sewer infrastructure and what's happening with it. I think probably a lot of you saw the smoke testing in your homes or with your businesses that was checking for leakage. They are still gathering the data. They're going to have to submit the report to the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, ADEQ. ADEQ is going to review that report, and the commission is going to make recommendations to ADEQ of how to fix the problems. That's not something that we want to spend money on, because we want to have a new park, and I understand that. But ADEQ may say, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to spend the money there. That is a very, very big unknown that's sitting out there right now. Now, what happened in Fort Smith is they've been dealing with it for the last decade, and the federal government got involved from the side of the Department of Justice, and they may be entering into a big lawsuit, and the federal government may say, We don't care what your plan is. This is what you're going to do, and this is where you're going to spend your dollars. We don't want to get into that. We want to make sure that we submit a good plan, that we've got a plan moving forward, but that is going to be a major, major economic issue for dollars that we're going to be facing. And we may have to make some tough decisions that we don't want to make today.
Alderman.
The challenge is moving forward with the city that I see, and I agree with Bob there. I've spoken to the utility guys also. I mean, there's going to be some significant challenges with sewer and water. But not to just elaborate on what he said, there's also other challenges. Go back to drainage, go back to streets, and they're all going to be challenges. And the money's the biggest challenge. Where do we find the money? How do we acquire the money? How do we secure it? And what do we pay for first? But with that said, so we have to have a solid economic development plan and take a few risks, and maybe spend some money on something that we think we can, that'll attract somebody to Van Buren and spend some money. I mean, the biggest challenge is just finding the money to pay for the things that's going to be required, mandated down by ADEQ, EPA, or we're just falling apart to a point where we have to mandate, to ourselves, we have to fix a street or we have to fix a drainage. There's going to be so many challenges, but it all revolves back around to money, and we cannot continue to tax the citizens of this town, or a business can't absorb it. I mean, businesses, if you look at it as a business plan, the margins, start shrinking when you add taxes onto somebody, and then the volume goes away at the same time, and the next thing you know, they're out of business, and your kid's going, why isn't he still in business? And then you have to explain to them we didn't support them, or they couldn't make a living because they're competing with somebody in a different town where their tax rate is lower. And I don't have a good answer for it other than we have to figure out a way to attract folks to our city and spend some time in our city. When somebody comes off that interstate and they go to Wendy's and jump back on the interstate, that's great for a hamburger and a tank of gas. We need to lure them down into the city where they disperse out 64 highway or somewhere. There's a giant market across the river. Nobody really talks about how do we market to Fort Smith. And that's how I see us creating some revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And this, you will answer this question first. As mayor, what would you do over the next 4 years to help Van Buren grow and improve?
We'll go right back to that subject. I just want to figure out a way to attract. The easiest way to do anything right now is with tourism. I really believe it in how we attract folks to Van Buren. Tourism dollars are flowing up and down this interstate every day. Somebody's looking to pull off that interstate and come spend some time somewhere. We have to be an attraction. It goes back to our Western heritage. That's the one thing we can market, we can sell, but we have to have, once they get here, you can't have them getting on social media and burning you down before they ever leave town. So we have to have something here for them to enjoy and something for them to promote for us. So the solution starts, I believe, with the Drennan Scott House and how we market it, or we come up with a story. No different than Walnut Ridge and the Beatles. The Beatles landed at Walnut Ridge and hid out for a day, and they got a museum up there, and people come off Interstate 40 and drive all the way up to Walnut Ridge every day to go see the Beatles Museum. I don't know what our story is. It could be somebody in this cemetery up here that's meaner than Wyatt Earp, and we have a gun, we have a story. I mean, that's all you need is a story. But we got to market it, and we got to have something for people to help us market, and I don't know if he's here, but Joe Miller made a good example. Tombstone had one story, and everybody knows it. I mean, it's just a good example. I'm not using it. I mean, gunfight at the OK Corral, that's the only thing that ever happened there, and they profited for 100 years, but we got to come up with that story. And it might be somehow down on the river. I think the river, there's not a good answer for how we go around Mr. Simmons' plant down there, but I think we start a conversation with Mr. Simmons. We got to figure some things out. They're tough decisions, and with a team, we can do that. Thank you.
Mayor?
I think we stay the course. We stay the course because we've invested in our community. We're going to continue to invest in the community. Rena Road was promised for 25 years. Rena Road is completed. It's opened. And as soon as Rena Road opened, I don't think it's by any accident that CVS Pharmacy built on the corner. It's not going to be any accident that we're going to see further development behind Lake Luema on property that's there, that's available for development. Several years ago, a hotel developer, and they're still here now, but they found a different place. They came to me and they asked me about Rena Road, and I said, we're a couple of years away. They said if Rena Road was finished, we'd be building the hotel right there behind Lake Luema. Because Rena Road needed to be completed, and it is, and that's an economic asset. Finishing the police station, our fire protection, what we're doing down with the senior center and reinvesting in this area, the improvements in Lee Creek Park, the improvements that we're going to see in the park up here, our parks plan, our economic strategy. Things have been tough the last 7 to 8 years. You all know that. And we're starting to see those signs of recovery. And people are looking. Oxane, if you remember Oxane, when they came here, when we got the call about Oxane and they're looking for a facility, I rallied the forces and we are down there on site with the Oxane folks, and they said, this is where we want to come because we can tell that this community and the leadership care about us. Now drive by the Oxane facility and look at the silos and see what's happening down there. And the alderman's right about cheering for and taking such pride in when we see the expansion in Arkansas Lamp, Arkansas Lighting now, 10, 15 jobs, Arkansas Poly, Tankersley. The list goes on, and when you see them making these capital investments in their company, you know that they're going to stay, and they're staying here for a reason. And when you add up 10 jobs here, 15 jobs here, 5 jobs here, I don't talk about individuals. To me, those are families.
Thank you. And this question will be yours to answer first. For this next question, I'm going to ask you to step back a few feet. That's figuratively, not literally, so stay there. I want you to step back from the issues of today and think forward. What is your vision for Van Buren?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, that I was someone who was born and raised in Van Buren, Arkansas. And I came home. And I came home for a reason. I came home because of the people and the investment, not just of dollars, but of time and of effort in what they did. My vision for Van Buren is that everyone who lives here now, has lived here, will have that same sense of place. My vision for Van Buren is that our heritage is not just our future. We are proud of our heritage. We're proud of who we are. And we say, we're Van Buren, Arkansas. We look and make the improvements and set the goals and the sights for what's going to be following on. You know, my desire is to be the mayor for the next 4 years. And after 4 years from now, I want to make this place better than when I found it. In 4 years from now, I want to hand that torch off to someone else and say, here, you take it and you make it even better than what it is today. Let's continue to move forward. That's what we're doing. That's where we're going. And that's where I see that we're going to be. I can see in my vision this center of transportation with I-49. I can see the Slackwater Harbor and the development that's going to happen with that transportation asset. I can see all the space that we've got down south of the industrial park and warehousing that provide continued growth and jobs. People are going to want to move here. Our cost of living, for example, compare it. we've got a great future. I talk to other cities across the state, and it's not so. We've got a bright horizon.
Alderman?
My vision for Van Buren is that, you know, that we are a leader in the region, and that we can be just a catalyst for this region to acquire jobs and industry on this side of the river as well as the other side of the river. But I just think that Van Buren needs, my vision would be that we need to figure out some ways how we attract those folks, whether it's through our own industrial park like we've already talked about. Everybody needs a job, and I'd like to see the folks from Van Buren not have to leave the city limits of Van Buren in order to go work. And I know that everybody don't, but there's a lot. You go out there and you watch, and there's a mass exit every morning. That's that's some of our issues, where we have to market ourselves to come home and spend their money. But like Bob had said, it is a beautiful place. You drive around, you look at the scenery, and you look at the landscape, and it's just, Van Buren's a great place. It's just, it needs to be tweaked a little bit, and it needs to be polished up, I think, and we can be better, and we can attract folks more people to come live and open businesses and be prosper here in Van Buren. I do agree that this side of the state is better off than the other side of the state. There's no doubt about it. But the vision that I have for Van Buren is just to be a leader within the region, to have a quality of place that everybody's proud of. Everybody wants to call Van Buren home. I'm not saying they don't, but just to really be proud of it and be able to speak proudly about it and help market it to the outside world. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Finally, are there any issues that we've covered or not covered this evening that you would like to elaborate on or talk about, or perhaps there were remarks by your opponent you'd like to rebut or comment on? I want to provide each of you up to 3 minutes time to comment on whatever you'd like. And we begin with Alderman Blake.
I don't necessarily have any rebuttals or anything. I just, back to several of the comments that, it's just that I've made. Van Buren is home. It's your home. It's about you guys. You're the investors. You live here. I want to be the mayor because I think I can do some things. I want to bring some change or some energy to it that I want to do, and I want to, I believe I can encourage folks to bring their energy along with me. I just feel like it's time for Van Buren to shine a little bit, and I believe I can do that. I want to build a team of intelligent folks around me that can help me. I use Greenwood as an example, and I'm not going to say anything negative about Greenwood, but I went down there to a wedding, to this nice big pavilion. I didn't know it was there, and I mean, it's fantastic. And big glass pavilion so the next day I called down there and found out how they acquired this and how they funded it. And they said they went to Little Rock, and they came home with almost $500,000 in 2 days by just shaking the tree and turning over the rocks and helped pay for that pavilion. That's the type of energy I want to bring. I mean, I come from small business where you just didn't sit around. I'm not saying anybody's sitting around. I mean, you had to go look for the advantages and take advantage of those advantages in order to be successful. And that's just the type of person I am. And, I believe I can do it. And thank you.
Mayor.
I'm going to quote a friend of mine, and he said, and I wrote it down, I know it sounds simplistic, but I'm convinced that fundamentally it's caring and committed people that make the community great. And I can't agree with that anymore. You know, we found out today for the first time in 10 years that we weren't selected as a volunteer community of the year. Don't know why, but you know, the award's nice to have, but what really matters is what's behind the award. Because we ran the numbers real quick, just looking. Fort Smith was awarded a Volunteer Community of the Year today, or announced today. We looked at their population and the number of hours of community service that they submit, and we compared it to what our population and what we submit. Fort Smith number of hours per capita is between 8 and 9. 8 and 9 hours per capita. That means for every resident, there's about 8 to 9 hours of community service or volunteer service. In Van Buren, that number is around 12 and a quarter. 12 and a quarter hours for every resident in Van Buren in volunteer time. I don't care if you're the mayor, if you're on the city council, if you're on a commission, if you're part of Keep Van Buren Beautiful, if you just pick up trash, you're part of a church, a civic club, whatever it may be. Every person in this community makes a difference. And it's all of us pulling together in one direction that says and makes the statement of who we are. And I'm here to tell you, people are looking on the outside and looking here, and they see what we've done. They see what we're doing. And I'm proud of it. You know, we've had some conversations about dollars in the future. You know, one of the reasons that we kept that half-cent sales tax and that bond issue of where it was so that we could get these projects done that we felt were pretty fundamental to our future, the fire station, the police station, the senior center. And we could get them paid off, and then we could ask the question, and I did as I made the presentations. We ought to be asking the question of what's next, what's next, what's next, because this half cent's going to go away in about 3 or 4 more years, and we need to be in the position that the community will say, let's renew this half cent. It's not a new tax. Let's just renew it, and let's continue to say, what's next, what's next, what's next.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, gentlemen, for answering these questions. This brings us to our time to have the audience ask some questions. We'll open this forum for you to ask Alderman Blake and Mayor Freeman. We ask that you please keep your questions related to matters pertaining to issues that are of a local or city government nature. We ask that you not ask questions relating to matters that are legislated or mandated at state or federal level and for which city government has little or no say. So, who has a question? Do we have a question for our candidates? Right back there.
I don't have a driver's license anymore because I cannot see well enough to drive. I need bus service. I do not understand why, when Fort Smith offered to run a bus over here, it was turned down by the city government. You get $11 for every dollar you spend. And if you think you don't have enough money, did you figure in the price that you would get from the fares and so forth? Why is nobody caring about whether it's a bus service in Van Buren?
I'm going to have Mayor answer that first.
Let me make sure I've got the question correct. Why is there not a bus service in Van Buren?
Why did you turn it down when Fort Smith offered it to you?
We did not turn down the bus service with Fort.
That's what it said in the Southwest Side.
Hey, let me let you in on a little secret. You two guys, cover your ears. Don't believe everything you read.
Well, I don't believe everything you say.
Well, touche. We didn't turn down a bus service out of Fort Smith Transit. As a matter of fact, We started conversations with Fort Smith Transit probably 6 years ago with Ken Savage, and we began to talk about it, about extending the bus service over here. The truth of the matter is that the fares and the federal government subsidy for transportation does not cover the cost of the bus service. One line to extend it over here would cost us, just for one line, a fixed route would cost us around $150,000. Now that line could only go basically from the fairgrounds to Cloverleaf and back. But that won't get it to the north. So as we looked at it, said it would probably take 2 lines, bus lines, to come over here, 2 fixed routes. And so those dollars out of city revenues would be about $300,000 to supplement what Fort Smith's cost would be for operational cost. Would I like to see it happen? Absolutely. That's why I initiated the talks 6 years ago. And we didn't have the money then. And I've talked about it, that it's something that I would like to see us do in the future as those funds were to come available. Because there are a lot of people. I had a lady, when CVS Pharmacy opened up, there was a young lady named Jenny. And Jenny was getting ready to move back to California because she'd been here because of her mother. And Jenny was disabled. And so Jenny came up to me with a similar question. She said, "Mayor Bob, if I could ask for one thing," she said, "I'm not going to be here, but could you have a mass transit system?" And she said a bus system for people like me, people who are disabled. And I really would. I would like to see it because I used to ride that bus system. But no, they didn't offer it, and there is a cost involved.
Excuse me, I have to allow Alderman Blake to respond to the first question, please.
I don't have any information other than what I read in the paper.
What would you do 2 lines? You could have one going to Cloverleaf, take up to
I'm going to have to hold that for a discussion at another time. We have some other questions.
It costs me $20 to come here tonight. It's
Sir.
to pick up my daughter. And I will not have my daughter next year.
Sir, I have to move on to another question.
And I can't even get
Thank you.
How will I get groceries? You put something $20 every week to go get groceries? I need a bus. And there's a whole lot of other people in the same position I am.
I think we had another question over here.
I'll ask one. What is your strategy to increase business and promote more life downtown Van Buren to Main Street again?
We'll let Alderman Blake respond first.
I've tried to address downtown a couple times this evening, and I just believe that if we anchor it correctly with the right anchors, and it can be the park on one end and it can be the Dren and Scott on the other, and how we promote ourselves and encourage activity down here, and we have the right investors down here, you'll start seeing it be a more lively place. And the business owners, such as Mr. Freeman said, we can't dictate what they sell or if they're successful, but I believe I can come up with a plan in order to anchor it correctly where we can at least drive traffic down here, hopefully where the business community in downtown can decide for themselves how they're going to be successful. But we have to have traffic. We have to drive traffic into the center of our city, whether it's through tourism, whether it's through a marketing campaign, even to Fort Smith. But we have to have something over here to draw them here. And, first off, I think we need to market to ourselves. We don't do a good job of marketing to ourselves. We need a spend local campaign. That's kind of just a standard phrase that cities uses, but when you have a bedroom community the way Van Buren is, for say, and you have such an exit every day, we have to market ourselves. We can't be successful marketing to the outside world if we're not marketing to ourselves. So I believe we can accomplish a revitalization of downtown with the correct strategy. And I believe I can do that. Thank
What
you.
is your strategy for that?
Well, that goes back to what I'm saying. You got to anchor it correctly. It's kind of like Central Mall. You put an anchor on each end, and everybody in the middle they're going to have to figure out how they're going to be successful. If you put enough people down here, whoever owns the buildings, whoever owns the service, I mean, they got to figure out how they're going to attract them. I can't ask them to go in that building, but I can darn sure try and help get them down here. If that, you understand the philosophy, what I'm trying to say from a business standpoint, how we anchor it. And if we anchor it correctly, it should take care of itself.
Mayor Freeman, would you like to respond?
I don't disagree with Alderman Blake about the anchors. That's when we talked about the park up by the depot. Again, as we go through this master parks plan, if someone were to ask me, where's your priority right now on one of those particular parks to make it happen, that can really make a difference. It's going to be the park that's up here that we can fund and make a difference for green space, for tourists that come in on the train, and for our downtown. I told you about Sulphur Springs, Texas, and what the transformation I saw in Sulphur Springs. The city, by doing something like that, or again with Lee Creek, when we had the 5Ks that happened down there, we're saying we're not going to build the senior center out somewhere else. We're going to reinvest right here in this neighborhood. Again, to bring people here. If we can bring the people into the downtown area, and if the shops are available, they will come back. And again, let me go back to Sulphur Springs. You go down and you see a movie and you look over and you go, I sure would like to go get one of these cupcakes from the cupcake places just come in. And so they go in and they buy cupcakes, and that's on a Saturday night. And the next thing you know, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they're saying, sure, we'd like to have one of those cupcakes from downtown and to head back down. Didn't know that shop was here. Didn't know that restaurant was here. Didn't know this was there. One will bring the other. Is it going to happen overnight? No, it's not. We went down to Sulphur Springs for 4 years in a row, and the transformation was remarkable. And we talked to one of the shop owners. She had no idea who I was or what my role was. And she said our downtown was dead, and buildings were starting to decay. And then this park, this Veterans Park, came in, and she said, "Look at it now." And you can see the renovations of the buildings. You see buildings being gutted and new businesses coming in. It's new blood coming in to say, that we can do this. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, and I really see, again, even in the downtown, the future. This is who we are. You can go to any town and see an Arby's, a Walmart, or whatever. But when you come to downtown Van Buren and you leave, you've got a picture and you remember what downtown Van Buren is. I'm not going to point to some of our neighbors, but look a little bit further to the east in the downtown and you go, holy Toledo, glad I'm not starting there. We can make it happen together.
Thank you, gentlemen. We will allow the candidates a final wrap-up. I'd like each candidate to please tell us in 2 minutes or less why you think you should be Van Buren's mayor for the next 4 years. We begin with Mayor Freeman.
When I moved away from Van Buren and went to the service, as I told you, I really didn't think that I'd be coming home. But I made that decision, and it was one of the best decisions of my life. To come back home to a community that basically raised me. Wherever we were, wherever we went, when we would come back home on leave or for the holidays, this was our safe haven where we could come back to. And it's just like we never left. And when I came back and I started serving on all these different commissions or being a part of a civic organization or helping with United Way, I did it because I wanted to make a difference. That I've said it before, and I truly mean it, that the sense of service I had and still have for my country, I had for my own community, and I have for my own community. I didn't expect ever to be standing here as the mayor of Van Buren, Arkansas. But I've been very blessed to be able to do it and try to reach out and make that difference. And I want to do it for the next 4 years. And as I told you before, to be able to hand it over to the next person and say, here, carry it on and do bigger and better things, because it's all not going to happen. You, again, are the source of the greatness for this town. My grandfather, my great-grandfather that went before us, and some of yours that went before you, gave you that same heritage. I want to see it continue on. I'm very fortunate, I guess, that I could get a degree in finance and have a background in banking. Thank goodness in the last 7 years that I did have that background. But I just want to continue to make a difference, and I do ask for your vote. I ask for your support, and let's keep moving. Let's keep going forward and say what's next.
Alderman?
Thank you. I'll come to work every day for you, no different than I did in the private sector, looking for the opportunities to make it better. You know, in the private sector, if you don't come to work and you look for those opportunities, you will go out of business. I'll bring that same mentality to Van Buren, not that we're going to go out of business, but the opportunities will make us better. And we have lots and lots of resources that we can take advantage of here. I mean, this building's one of them. I mean, you got the Field of Greens, you got things like that. I want to see the investments that we've made provide a return on investment that we're not seeking, right? Not that we're not seeking, that it's not that I feel like it's not generating right at this time the way it should. There's a few things that go on, but when we invest in something, we should expect a return on that investment. You know, with the Field of Greens, I feel like there should be more activities out there to invite folks to our city to spend the night in our hotels, to more shows here, just figure out the ways to bring folks to our city. You know, I have a mentality of trying to be successful in whatever I do. I come from a family that's created businesses and sold them and been a part of businesses that's been sold. That, to me, that's a testimony of doing something right. Somebody else wanted what I had or what we had, and I learned from my dad and my brother and me. We've all pretty much got the same mentality, and so, you know, success means a lot. And not that somebody's going to come by Van Buren, but, you know, I want somebody to want what we have and want to come spend their day here and live here. I am asking for your vote, and I appreciate this opportunity to be in front of you guys tonight. You know, this is my first time to be in front of a crowd like this, stand on a stage, and most of you can tell that, but I am sincere. This is all about Van Buren. You guys are the investor, you guys are the homeowner. It's not about me, it's about you and us and we. It'll never be about me. It'll always be about Van Buren, and it will always be about y'all and us. And I just feel like I can drive the train, and I'll do you a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are truly blessed to live in a country where we can have this kind of forum take place and as part of our political experience. And I'm sure you all agree that we have all learned things tonight and are better informed because of events such as this. On behalf of the Van Buren Chamber of Commerce, I want you all to please join me in thanking Max Blake and Bob Freeman for their presentation. We certainly thank you for your presence here tonight. It was an important part of the evening, and vote, right? Vote. All right. Good night. Thank you for coming.